Hi, good morning, everyone. So let us begin the session today by first taking a question on for practice, and this is going to be on your microeconomics production function. Now, the question that we are going to pick up today is going to be from a very, very common topic, which has been asked multiple times in exam. And just give me a second, I think it stopped. So this has come multiple times in exam, just that every time it has been asked in a little different way. They can reword the same question in multiple ways, but you can expect a question that can be asked out of the Cobb-Douglas production function. Okay. So let's try to read out this question. It says, suppose that the production function of a given firm is given to you, and the production function given here, that is basically Q is equal to A, L to the power 1 by 3, K to the power 2 by 3. So as you can go ahead and as you can notice, this is clearly a well-defined production function, clearly a Cobb-Douglas production function. Right? First of all, the first question says that find out the returns to scale. Now, if you notice, the total question is for 8 marks, but the breakage of the question is not given to us. Matlab, it is not given ki kya 1 mark hoga, kitna 2 mark hoga, which part is for how much marks. That is not given here. So since this thing is not clearly mentioned, we will go ahead and we will answer in a way which is sufficient enough. Mane, one way to just check the returns to scale can be by adding the power. And since the sum of the power is 1, if you notice, kya aa raha hai? 1 by 3 plus 2 by 3, that is 3 by 3. That means 1. So the sum of the power is coming out to be 1. So that can be one way in which you can go ahead and you can say that, look, ma'am, this is a CRS production function. But we don't want to answer it in that informal way here. We will answer the question in a formal way, right? So we want to check whether f of lambda k lambda L, whether this production function and f of KL, this production function, what is the relationship between the two? So when I scale capital, I scale labor, ठीक है? तो जो न्यू प्रोडक्शन फंक्शन आ रहा है, is it lambda times the original production function? Then it is constant returns to scale. Right? So we want to check using the definition. So this is what I have gone ahead and I have done here. So in the first part, I have just gone ahead and I have scaled labor and I have scaled capital. I have not scaled technology. I am assuming A is a constant. In general production functions, we will assume technology to be constant. Okay? Unless it is a Romer model. Romer model means we also fluctuate technology. Technology becomes endogenous. Okay? But from the aspect of microeconomics, technology is exogenous and constant. So technology or A has been kept as it is. Technology को हम change नहीं कर रहे हैं. And labor has been written as lambda L to the power 1 by 3, of course, and capital has been written as lambda k to the power 2 by 3. So I have scaled both labor and capital. Now what we are trying to do is we are trying to open this up. So when we open this up, this becomes lambda to the power 1 by 3, L to the power 1 by 3, lambda to the power 2 by 3, K to the power 2 by 3. And you take these lambdas together. When base is same, power will be added. So 1 by 3 plus 2 by 3 is just 1. तो यहाँ पे आपका जो power हो गया वो सिर्फ 1 का हो गया. So this is just lambda, right? And here you will get this original production function back. You will get this A, L to the power 1 by 3, K to the power 2 by 3. You will go ahead and get this original production function back. So this will become lambda into the original production function, right? So we can go ahead and we can say that this is a constant returns to scale production function. Okay. So when you are scaling the factors, the output scales by exactly the same amount. जितने से इनपुट को हमने स्केल किया, आउटपुट भी उतने से ही स्केल हो गया. The input and output is scaling by the same amount. So we can go ahead and we can say that it is constant returns to scale. That will be your first part to the answer. Let's look at the second part. So this is the first part. Look at the second part. Is the production function labor intensive? So the production function, again, this can be answered in one line also, and it can be answered in multiple lines also. तो हमें खुद से समझना है how much to write in an answer. So the production function, it can be labor intensive, or the production function, it can be capital intensive. ठीक है. When will it be labor intensive? It will be labor intensive when there is more share of labor in output. And when it is capital intensive, when there is more share of capital in output. Now, usually, when we say y is equal to a, L to the power alpha, k to the power 1 minus alpha, matlab the sum of the powers is 1, right? So usually when the sum of the power is 1, जैसे यहाँ हो रहा है, here it is happening, that the sum of the power is coming out to be 1. So usually when the sum of the power is 1, then this alpha, it represents the share of labor, right? And this 1 minus alpha, this represents the share of capital, right? And if alpha is greater than 1 minus alpha, then we will say that it is labor intensive. And if alpha is less than 1 minus alpha, then we will say it is capital intensive. Okay. So just by looking at the question, अगर हम एक बार ये question को देखें, the question says that y is equal to a, and then you have L to the power 1 by 3, k to the power 2 by 3. So if I look at the power of labor, so the share of labor is 1/3 in output. And if I look at the share of capital is 2/3 in output, right? So what do we notice? We notice that the share of labor is less than the share of capital. So therefore it is capital intensive. Right? But this is an informal way of writing this answer. ये इसका formal way नहीं है. If you just look at the powers and you compare, then this is informal way of writing this answer, not a formal way. If you want to go ahead and you want to go through the formal approach, माने सिर्फ powers को compare नहीं करके, we should be writing it in a more formal approach. So this is what we will do. So I start with the marginal product of labor, right? What is marginal product of labor? The marginal product of labor is how output changes as labor changes. So I differentiate the production function with respect to L, with respect to labor. When I differentiate this production function with respect to labor, so power comes down, power reduces by 1 into k to the power 2 by 3. Okay, this will be your marginal product of labor. Now this L to the power minus 2 by 3, I am just going ahead and bringing it in the denominator because there is a negative power. And this becomes A into 1 by 3, k to the power 2 by 3. And this goes in the denominator upon L to the power 2 by 3. Right? Now what you can go ahead and you can do is, you can just multiply both sides with L to the, not both sides, numerator and denominator with L to the power 1 by 3. So when you will multiply the numerator and the denominator with L to the power 1 by 3, you will notice that this becomes the numerator. The numerator will turn out to be this. A, k to the power 2 by 3, L to the power 1 by 3, and denominator will be 3L. So the numerator will be nothing but output upon 3 times labor, right? So it will be Y by 3L. This will be your marginal product of labor, right? Now, what you can go ahead and you can do is, you can use the property that MPL into P, that means value of marginal product of labor, is nothing but the wage rate. So the marginal product of labor will be W by P, right? So I've just replaced this by W by P. So W by P will go ahead and become Y by 3L, right? And then you can just take this on the other side. So you will get WL, L has gone on the other side, upon PY, Y has gone on the other side, is equal to 1 by 3. This is the share of labor in the value of output. That is coming out to be 1 by 3. So the share of labor in the value of output is 1 by 3. Now you don't have to do same thing for capital. Labor ke liye you have already shown ki ye ra marginal product, and marginal product se I have got share of labor. So then you don't have to do for capital. You will just say similarly, share of capital will turn out to be 2 by 3. Since the share of labor is less than the share of capital, therefore it is not. Don't say it is capital intensive. First say it is not labor intensive. Question is asking whether it is labor intensive or not. So पहले उसका आंसर दो, whether it is labor intensive or not. So you will say therefore it is not labor intensive. Then in bracket you can write that it is capital intensive. But try to answer what the question is asking. Don't use the word it is capital intensive without answering the question whether it is labor intensive or not. That is not the way to solve this question, right? Okay, so that's your second part. The second part was asking if the production function process is labor intensive or not. Okay, now just go ahead, give the third part a little try. So the third part is asking you, if the price of labor and capital are 20 and 100, which means you are given W and R, wage rate and rental rate. The firm incurs a total cost of 1050. What will be the optimal combination of labor and capital? माने कितना labor और कितना capital you should be going ahead and using. So you are already